The silence didn't creep into Morrowfield, it pounced. One Tuesday morning, the world went mute. Not the world, exactly. Just the people. Phones still rang. Dogs still barked. Tractor engines coughed and rumbled in the fields. But the 947 residents of Morrowfield opened their mouths, and nothing came out. It happened mid-sentence. A farmer telling his wife the chickens had gotten out. A teacher asking a student to sharpen a pencil. A little girl singing a nonsense song to her doll. All at once, their voices were gone, snatched away like a breath by a thief in the night. Lips moved, faces twisted with effort, but the air remained empty. By Thursday, the town was a ghost of itself. People gathered in clusters, scribbling notes on napkins, holding up whiteboards, their eyes wide and wet with panic. The few outsiders who arrived, a state trooper, a reporter, a lost truck driver, felt it immediately. The wrongness, the way the residents stared too long, the way they pointed at their throats and shook their heads, the way their mouths kept moving, even when no one was watching, forming silent words to themselves like prayers to a god who had abandoned them. The trooper, a veteran named Bill Harp, was the first to suspect it wasn't medical. He'd seen hysteria before. This wasn't hysteria. This was theft. He stayed the night. He shouldn't have. At midnight, he heard it. A whisper. Faint at first, then clearer, coming from the woods beyond the town limits. He grabbed his flashlight and his service weapon and walked toward the tree line, his boots crunching on frostbitten grass. The whispering grew louder as he approached. It wasn't one voice, it was hundreds. Thousands. A chattering river of sound, spilling from the darkness between the pines. He stepped into the forest, and the noise swallowed him. He heard his mother's voice. She'd been dead 10 years. "Billy, you come inside now? Supper's ready." He heard his own voice, from a recording he'd made years ago for a training exercise. Suspect is armed, requesting backup. He heard words he didn't recognize. Conversations from a century ago. Lovers arguing, children laughing, a preacher shouting sermons into a crowd that had turned to dust. And then he saw them. The trees were moving. Not swaying. Their bark rippled like skin over muscle. Knots in the wood open and closed like mouths, and from each knot, a voice emerged. The trees were speaking. They were speaking everything. Every word ever uttered in Morrowfield. Stolen and saved and savored. Now poured from the forest in a relentless, deafening flood. Bill stumbled backward, his mind reeling. He ran back to town, burst into the general store where a handful of residents sat in silent despair. He grabbed a pad of paper and wrote in shaking capitals, "The trees. They have your voices. They're in the woods." The residents read his words. They looked at each other, and then, slowly, they smiled. It was the first smile Bill had seen in Morrowfield. It was not a happy smile. An old woman stood up. She walked to the counter, picked up a pen, and wrote back to him. Her handwriting was elegant, unhurried. "We know." Bill stared at the words. His blood went cold. "We gave them to the forest, generations ago. Our great-grandparents made the deal. The trees protect us. They keep the bad things away, but they get hungry. They need to feed. They fed on our voices today. Tomorrow, they'll need something else." Bill looked up from the paper. The old woman was still smiling. Behind her, more residents had gathered at the door of the general store. They weren't looking at him. They were looking past him, out the window, toward the woods. The whispering from the forest had changed. It was no longer a chaotic jumble. It was rhythmic, intentional. A single word, repeated over and over, growing louder with each repetition. Hungry. 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 Bill turned. Through the glass, he saw the tree line. The trees were closer than they had been an hour ago. Their branches swayed in unison, like arms reaching. Their bark split open, revealing dark, wet cavities that pulsed with light. The residents of Morrowfield rose as one. They filed out of the store, out of their homes, out of their silent, waiting lives. They walked toward the forest, not in fear, in welcome. Bill tried to shout, but his voice was gone. He opened his mouth, and nothing came out. He grabbed his throat. He tried again. Silence. The whispering from the trees grew triumphant, and in that moment, Bill understood. The deal wasn't just with the ancestors. It was with everyone. The trees didn't just take voices. They owned them. And when they got hungry enough, they didn't just take the words. They took the speakers. The last thing Bill saw, before the roots burst through the floorboards and wrapped around his ankles, was the old woman walking into the dark, her mouth open in a silent song of joy. The trees welcomed her with open branches, and then they pulled Bill down into the cold, whispering earth, where his voice joined the chorus forever. The next morning, a truck driver passed through Morrowfield. He saw the houses, the empty streets, the silence. He stopped at the general store. The door was open. A single piece of paper lay on the counter. He picked it up. The handwriting was fresh. "Welcome to Morrowfield. We've been expecting you." "The trees are hungry again." He looked up. Outside the window, the forest had surrounded the town, and from its depths, 1,000 voices whispered his name.